KP, happy World Series Day to you. And what do you have for us tonight? I mean, you've been a little Nostradamus in terms of predicting what's going on with the Blue Jays. So would you like to make one fan base really happy and piss the other side off?
First off, I want to say this is exciting for me. I mean, as you guys can attest, you work your whole life to play in a World Series. And unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to do that as a player. So me kind of being able to hop on the back of this Toronto Blue Jays team, kind of be brought back into that ecosystem, like it's exciting for me. You know, my heart's kind of beating fast. I got a room right here looking at the Rogers Center. And I mean, the line right now just to be outside the stadium is crazy. Like the fact that I'm going to get to step foot, I never went as a fan either. So like, this is really exciting for me. In terms of predictions, so I've been getting a lot of questions from friends at home. And for the audience out there that don't know, I grew up in Southern California. That's where I was born. I was a Dodger fan my whole life until I got into professional baseball. So I got a lot of friends and family still back at home that are Dodger fans. Some of my family converted to being Blue Jay fans, and then I took them through the ringer of the league. So they're actually very confused. But I think more than any series that I can remember, I think this has got the biggest randomness to it. I mean, I could see the Dodgers winning in 4, and I could see the Blue Jays winning in 7, and pretty much anywhere in between. But I want to see the way they deploy this lineup before I kind of make a prediction, because even though that I'm kind of in that inner circle with the Toronto Blue Jays, I don't know entirely what Bo is capable of doing. You know, I think he is the great equalizer when it comes to just adding pure talent to the Blue Jays lineup. So I'm curious to see how he's used tonight.
All right. Well, if you're kind of in the inner circle, maybe you're just on the outer circle and you're looking, have you seen him run? Have you been on the field? All we've seen is like videos from like the roof of the Rogers Center.
Yeah, I've been in there. I saw him run in Seattle. I saw him run the other day. I've had a one-on-one conversation with him. Obviously, the injury he has, it's public knowledge. Like, it's not an injury that's going to heal in this short amount of time that he needed in order for it to heal. But he's feeling confident. Every day was a step in the right direction. What he's been doing behind the scenes in terms of, you know, his routine hitting and keeping his arm in shape and kind of recreating that speed of the game in the box. And if there's one guy that I would bet on out of all the players in Major League Baseball, he's near that top of the list of guys that I would feel comfortable rolling into a batter's box, not playing in over, you know, a month and a half, almost 2 months. I think he's that good of a hitter. I think his hand-eye coordination is that good. I think he's born to be a professional hitter. And he might not be the same guy, but I think his, you know, 60, 70, 80%, whatever he feels like he is better than, you know, some other options that they have.
Did you see any change in the running? Because the running videos I've seen, again, they're from long distance away, maybe from your hotel room, I'm not sure, but it didn't look good. It didn't look like somebody that I'm like, okay, I'm not debating the high eye-hand coordination, traject, getting his at-bats. He's going to be able to, he'll be ready with the stick. But did you see any change from Seattle to here?
I think it's the way he's been bouncing back. Yeah, I mean, he looks a little hobbled when he's running, but for someone who's also, you know, had to come back from some injuries, and never like an injury like he's had, but you have to kind of check the boxes when you go out there and run the field. No one's really going out there, you know, making the tightest turns around the bases. You know, the risk reward of him going out there and, you know, showing he could run at 100% is not worth the risk of injury, I think. And as you guys know, you guys played, a game adrenaline's a crazy drug. You know, he gets out there and he's able to kind of move around. You know, how well is he going to be able to move side to side? Where does he fit into this Blue Jays roster? Is it at second base? I don't believe it would be shortstop. And I think the big thing to also remember with this too is George isn't 100% either. I don't feel confident with them kind of, and I don't think the Blue Jays feel confident in rolling George out there in right field. I think if a situation, you know, happened where, you know, that was the last case scenario and they needed George to go out there for a couple of innings, he would do it. But for him to start out there, given what he had just gone through, you know, less than a week ago, getting hit off the knee. I mean, he was even uncertain going into game 6 and game 7. And as you could tell early on in that game, his swings weren't great. You could tell the knee was bothering him. He took that swing, he fell to a knee. You could see him grimacing in pain. But once again, the most amazing drug in the world, adrenaline, playing in front of 47,000 people. Did you see how high he got off the ground running first base with a guy with a bum knee? So only imagine what Bo would feel like if he was able to, not only run out of the dugout for maybe the opening ceremonies, but maybe get a chance to pinch hit or maybe even play second base. Like, I think you go out there and you see what he has to give you. And obviously he's been on the field the last couple of days. They have a better indication of where he's at, but game adrenaline is a crazy thing, especially on this stage.
Love adrenaline, love it, eat it up. I know you ate it up with all those nasty catches you had there in center field. One, talk about how this atmosphere is going to be in Toronto. I know you kind of talked a little bit about it a while ago. Talk about the atmosphere and talk about how they get on Blake Snell early and often, because when they score early, they really find ways to win ball games when talking about the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think there's no secret in baseball anymore. When the Blue Jays are in the playoffs and their teams are very good, they have a true home field advantage, especially when the roof is closed. I don't think there's a louder place in baseball than the Rogers Center when it's rocking. And, credit to the Seattle Mariners, in that game 7, they were able to score a little bit early. And baseball is a weird sport. Baseball is a very reactionary sport. Like, it's hard to just kind of manufacture noise and, people that come to watch games, it's hard to be loud and be excited when the game is not that exciting and when the other team is winning and you don't really have much to kind of show for it. But what the Blue Jays did a really good job is crawling back into that game. And then obviously the Springer moment, I'm surprised the roof is still on that stadium, how loud it was in there. It was one of the best scenes that I had ever seen in baseball. And I was a player and got to witness Jose Bautista's bat flip in game 5. And there was, honestly, I think the difference was there was this build up to Jose's home run. Like, there was the airs, the stadium was kind of loud, and then the roof blew off. George Springer's going into that inning, that stadium was almost dead silent. And then there was this very, very slow build to, obviously, when Springer hit the home run, it was probably the loudest I had ever heard a stadium. But I've been talking about this, and you like me coming out with crazy predictions and crazy thoughts, right? As great as it is to host a playoff game and especially a World Series, I always feel like the pressure's on the home team. One, you're playing at home, you're expected to win. Mm-hmm. You have all these people coming to watch you. This is the first World Series game in 32 years held in this great city. I think you saw the effects of that in the CS series when they had all the rest. They had their starting pitching lineup. They had a fresh bullpen. They finally won a playoff series since 2016. Seattle's coming off this very long, emotional series. Every reason to kind of bet against the Seattle Mariners and hop on the Blue Jays bandwagon. But I always feel like the pressure's on that home team for that reason. Baseball is very reactionary. If you don't give the fans something to kind of react to, then you start to feel the tension, you start to feel the nerves. And I think, seeing that firsthand in the Rogers Center and pretty much everywhere else you go in baseball, you feel that as a home team. I felt it when I played in Atlanta. When we were there, we didn't give them a lot to cheer about. And then you could kind of feel this nervous energy enter the stadium. And not only now are you trying to battle the team you're playing against, you're trying to find a way to energize these fans again. So I'm always a little skeptical to put a lot of stock into the home team early on in the series. I feel like as you kind of get into the flow of the series, I think home field advantage plays a little bit more.
So did you purposely duck Todd's question?
Which one? How did they get to Blake Snell?
Yeah, is it because of all your elite success? Kevin Pillar is going to be active. You're going to rip your jersey off, and you're batting third tonight. You got 3 dingers. You're 10 for 25. You own Blake Snell. So that's why you're not saying anything, but we need to hear how can the Blue Jays own him?
Yeah, much like the first pitch, I'm like I said, I'm a team guy. I don't like the attention on me. Yes, I am well aware of my success on Blake Snell, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be asked about it on Sportsnet tonight to kind of talk about what I would do. Blake Snell is an elite pitcher with elite stuff. I think what the Blue Jays offer is the ability to swing at strikes, put the ball in play early. I think if they can eliminate strikeouts, and I never pitch, and obviously, Kratz, you probably have a little bit more knowledge in this department. When you have a guy like Blake Snell that is an elite competitor that loves punching tickets, if you don't allow this guy to punch tickets, does he try to reach back for more? Does he start trying to throw wipeout pitches earlier? If he's not getting a lot of swing and miss, does that kind of affect the way he feels about his stuff, even if he's getting outs with those things? I don't know Blake Snell personally, but I would love to get your take on that. If you have a guy who loves his stuff and he's one of the best pitchers in baseball at punching tickets, getting swing and miss, and he's not getting those things, even though he may be getting outs, does that affect him? But what I think the Blue Jays do in order to counteract Blake Snell's aggressive or greatness is continue to be aggressive. Don't allow him to get deep into counts. Don't allow him to get 2 strikes where he can start to throw his wipeout stuff. I think the Blue Jays have, and I've talked to the hitting coaches there with the Toronto Blue Jays, what they are really good is they want you to be you. They want you to stick to your strengths. For me, against Blake Snell, I usually tunneled the inner half of the plate. I wanted to battle the fastball slider. I wanted to avoid the fastball and the changeup on the outer half. I felt like I had more success trying to pull the ball against Blake Snell. Every once in a while, I could get that changeup that started middle in and kind of leaked over the plate, and maybe I can, ass out it, flip it over the shortstop head. And to me, the curveball is like the trap pitch with him. It's nasty. It looks like a strike, and I think if you could try to eliminate that, I think the Blue Jays can, have some success off of him. You're going up against one of the game's best, who's pitching at his best right now, and I think that is the most interesting storyline in this series is the elite starting pitching versus the bat and ball skills against the Toronto Blue Jays. It's going to be very interesting to watch.
You check 2 boxes. Blue Jays fans, and your boots on the ground right now. There's 2 guys on the Dodgers, Roki Sasaki and Shohei Ohtani, who were rumored or maybe just used as a manipulating, tactic of going to the Blue Jays. We'll never know until they honestly are on a lie detector test if Roki and Shohei were going to be coming to the Blue Jays or not. They seem destined to the Dodgers. Are they going to get loud enough boos that they're not going to be able to hear their name being said when they're announced?
I mean, maybe one of them, but there also is a large Japanese population here in Toronto. So I think there's going to be kind of mixed reviews with it. But regardless if those rumors are true or not true, and like you said, we're not going to know the entirety of the story until maybe many years later. What it did for the Blue Jays brand was very important. I think the fact that they went out and at least what we do know with certainty is they did have one of those meetings with Shohei. They had it with Roki. I believe they had it with Juan Soto. The fact that they are finally in a position with ownership, with Mark Shapiro, with Ross Atkins, with everyone involved, with the stadium renovations, that they want to be a team that is willing to go out and spend money on these type of free agents, that they want to be this destination for players to come, I think is part of the reason that they're here. I think they are a team that is willing to, they want to go down the same path that the Los Angeles Dodgers are going down, is we want to be a destination that players want to go and play for. Their selling point is, obviously Toronto is a great place, but it's a very international city. It also is the only place you represent an entire country, but it shows that they want to win year after year after year. And hopefully this is the first of many successful seasons for the Blue Jays, and obviously going out and signing Vladdy to that 14-year deal in spring training shows their commitment to winning.
All right, real simple question here. Should Bo Bichette play every single game in order for them to win this World Series?
Wow. It's a great question, Todd.
My thing is,
I thought my initial thought process, as he was trending in the right direction, and like I said, me getting a chance to talk to him, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I've only seen what I've seen. I've had my conversations with him, but I thought as the series went on and the Blue Jays won, I thought without a doubt Bo Bichette would be on the playoff roster. In what capacity would they use him? At the very least, I think Bo Bichette sitting on the bench as a right-handed bat, with, his name on the back of the jersey, with the type of hitter he is, with the type of, stage he commands, with his ability to put the ball in play. The one thing he did tell me is he believes in his ability to put in a great at-bat together right now. And that might have been a week ago when he said it. Like, that is his greatest attribute as a player, is he can put together a great at-bat. Whether he plays second base or he DHs or he's sitting on the bench, I think him being on the roster just makes decisions that Dave Roberts may have to make later in the game a little bit more challenging. Does he go to that left-hander like in the 7th inning in that Varsho Barger window, knowing that there's this Bo Bichette guy sitting on the bench, and they also have a guy by the name of Ty France that they added to the roster? If you don't believe that both of those guys were added to the roster, as right-handed bats that can kind of counteract some of the left-handed pitching that they had coming out of the bullpen, you're crazy. I would personally like to see Bo Bichette maybe in game 1. Man, if he could DH, that would be like the ideal situation. But I think finding him a window where he gets a pinch hit in a game to really kind of see where the heartbeat's at, where the body's at, where the swing is at, where the timing's at, and if he's able to get on base, how does he actually look running down the line? I don't believe he's a guy that if he pinch hits in a game, is he going to stay in the game to run the bases and play the field? Maybe there's this, slow entry to the series, and maybe by game 2 or 3, if he's really trending in the right direction, maybe we see him out there. But it'll be interesting to see if Bo Bichette, and I haven't been around the team all year, and I didn't really get a chance to play with Bo. Is he a guy that comes out for BP? Is he a guy that comes out and takes ground balls? I'm certainly going to be over there during batting practice, and that's what I want to look for. Is Bo Bichette out there hitting with his team? Is he out there taking ground balls? And how does he friggin' look? Does he look the part? Does he look like he can play 9 innings today? But I think it's regardless of what capacity he's in, I think it's going to make decisions on the Dodgers a little bit more tough.
I think the good number to set is 7 hits. Over, under, that's how many Schwarber got when he came back, and he came back from his ACL. So we'll see. But the big problem for the Blue Jays is they don't have the length in their starting pitching. So they're going to rely on this bullpen. Scott had brought it up earlier in the show. Do you think they're going to go with kind of like a, hey, Chris Bassitt, you're going to give us a little bit. Hey, I know, Trey Savage, maybe because he's young, they wouldn't do it. But, hey, today's your side day. We're going to go and we're going to give you, 2 innings just because of what we've seen from their second best reliever in Louis Varland. He's just pitched every single game. And once these guys see guys, it is lights out. So how are they going to deploy this? And where do you see some of the other guys that you're like, I don't know how they're going to use them being used in this bullpen?
Yeah, I highly doubt you see like a Kevin Gausman maybe before later in the series. I think you keep him fresh for, a game 6 start. Obviously, subject to change. If the Dodgers get out to an early lead in the series and game 6 isn't a guarantee, most definitely you'll see Kevin Gausman out there. But I think Chris Bassitt is the biggest X factor. He didn't get really any run. I think he pitched in game 2 when the game was a little out of hand. Pitched a little bit differently. He had to pitch for length a little bit more in that game. But to no surprise, what John Schneider's done all year is kind of think outside the box. He talked to me, on the field, during game 3 of the CS. We had a long conversation, and his message in spring training was be you, and we are going to find a spot to maximize your skill set. And right now, Chris Bassitt's skill set is being in that circle of trust with John Schneider. I don't think anyone really predicted, maybe outside me, because I said, Bassitt was going to get into game 7, but I don't think anyone predicted him pitching the 8th inning of a 2-run game. But he's been there. He's done it. He's got a slow heartbeat. Kratzy and Frazier, these games is so much about controlling the emotions, controlling the heartbeat. And what I was talking to Caleb Joseph about, when we're texting during the game about, when guys come in, we're talking the game, and we both kept asking for the curveball, because I believe in big moments when the game is at its highest moment, people can hit a friggin' fastball shot out of rifle. We're all moving fast, our heartbeat's beating fast. I think sometimes slow is most effective in those situations. And sure enough, Chris Bassitt, has the cojones to throw that 72-mile-an-hour curveball in there. And I expect that to be a factor in this game. Although the Dodgers have been there, done it, they have a little bit slower heartbeat than maybe the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. expect John Schneider to, stay on script with like the Louis Varlands and the Jeff Hoffmans and the Sir Anthony Dominguez. But I don't think what happened to him with, Brandon Little in Game 6 is going to affect the way that he uses. Maybe he finds a different pocket for him, but I expect all hands on deck. I expect some out-of-the-box thinking and really just trusting his guys, because I think that's what's got him to this point. I don't expect John Schneider to change the way he's managed up until this point.
KP, hitting question for you, and we're going to cover this a little bit in our next segment, so you can help us kick this off. What do you have on the bat speed conversation and Dave Popkins, as if, he's bringing this concept to players like, hey, if you swing the bat faster like that could create an advantage for you, but also the balance, of course, if not striking out too much. So that, plus I'll add a story from Mitch Bannon, The Athletic, that I read last night, and Popkins, who is beloved by the players, said in the first 2 games against the Mariners, they were owning the zone, and he said they needed more slug, and they were able to turn that on with their game plan. So I don't know if those 2 things I just asked are connected, but just curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds kind of like an elementary thought that, more bat speed would equal more velocity and more power, but it wasn't probably something that was talked about a whole lot in maybe the previous regime of hitting coaches here. And that's me maybe speaking, out of turn. I don't know that definitively, but I do know that the new hitting coaches they brought in, implemented that. And, I wish it was as easy as, just saying, hey, we're going to alter our game plan. We're going to slug more. But the strength that the Blue Jays do have is that they do put the ball in play. And I think they just had to kind of recalibrate what they meant by putting the ball in play. It didn't mean just, hey, advance the ball. Like, let's take our shots early. I think we have a team that doesn't strike out and is that a really good contact team. Is you allow them to take bigger swings early in the count. You allow them to hunt pitches in certain zones and allow them to, quote unquote, maybe swing for the fences a little bit more early on in the count, because as they get deeper in the count, they have that ability to maybe shorten up a little bit, use the opposite field, just put the ball in play. Talking to front office, talking to, Mark Shapiro, they've talked about, Popkins and his staff as being, franchise altering decision, them bringing in, I've been around a lot of hitting coaches. I've had a lot of great hitting coaches. I've had some very average hitting coaches. My conversations with them is the exact type of guys that I wish I would have got a chance to, play for. What they're big on is stay with your strengths. We don't necessarily, there's obviously a biomechanic aspect, but what they really want you to do is be the best athlete you can be. Being around them during early BP, they're just having these guys launch. And, does that translate into the game? No, but they want these guys to feel free and move fast and, have big leg kicks and move athletically. And then they can always kind of narrow that kind of, thought process, game planning, mechanic stuff. But really, they're just trying to get the best athlete out of every hitter. And getting their big guys, getting Vladdy and George was a big part of getting those guys on board. And, I from what I had heard, Carlos Correa maybe reaching out to George Springer and being like, hey, these guys are the real deals. Like, give them a chance, let them, trust these guys. And obviously George, was able to kind of trust these guys and move forward from, a couple rough years. And, he's going to get MVP votes this year. So a lot of credit to obviously the players, but behind the scenes, having great hitting coaches that are always constantly preaching positivity and getting your swing off. And, you guys could attest to it too. You get a lot of hitting coaches that say like, hey, I want you to hunt here, but I don't want you to go here, and don't chase here and this and this. They're really big on, hey, if this is your zone, you hunt here. If the pitch starts here and, it's a breaking ball fit and you get fooled, good. I want you to hunt this zone and get your swing off. And there's a lot of times they try to make an approach seem like it's so easy, like, oh, just hunt this pitch. Don't. Like, guys don't tunnel pitches now. They are good with you staying in your tunnel and getting your swing off. Type of guys that I wish I could play for, because a lot of times when you go up there with the idea of yes and no and no and yes, like, it starts to become a math equation as opposed to, let me just be the best friggin' athlete I could be. Let me grab this bat and let me swing it fast and let me try to do some damage.
Hey, real quick, what did you say about Correa and Springer. So you're talking about Popkins, how he went from the Dodgers actually to the Twins. Twins let him go. Oops, they're bad. And then Correa said, "Hey, this guy's really good."
Yeah, I mean, as you know, like anytime whether you're a hitting coach, whether you're a sports psychiatrist, whether you're, a pitching coach, getting players like being able to come into a new environment, the hardest thing you can do is try to earn the trust of players. And if you have players maybe in other or your previous organization that are able to reach out to players, in your current organization, and you give them, their blessing, and you say, "Hey, this guy's the real deal," and you could kind of cut through that, that little dance maybe early on in the off season or spring training of like, why is this guy calling me? I don't know him. What's he have to offer me? When you can get a player's blessing and be like, you know what, this hitting coach was unbelievable. And there was places that I went, and I was able to either reach out to players or players reached out to me and was like, "Hey, Coach X is the real deal." And like, you don't have to go through that BS of like, what's he have to offer? Can I trust him? Can I be vulnerable with him? Is he going to run to the front office? Is he going to tell someone? Does he really know what he's talking about? When you get that confirmation from a guy like, Carlos Correa, who's obviously friends with, George Springer, and George Springer is able to hop on from day one because he heard from his buddy that, hey, Dave Popkins is the real deal. And then, Springer maybe can convey that message to a Bo Bichette or a Vladdy, and you get your big boys on table, and then everyone else kind of follows. I think that's what you're seeing there, and obviously I wasn't around in spring training, but if you talk to these guys about them, they smile ear to ear with confidence in what that hitting department's been able to do for a lot of these players and what they're able to do game planning. And, I asked them questions before the game about, how are you guys going to game plan for them? And I'm like, do you have a backup plan and a backup plan? And they just wink. So I think they're always, 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of maybe the counter that the pitcher or the opposing team has. So it's been a lot of fun to watch, and it definitely seems like a place that I would have thrived as a hitter.
Last question before we let you go. Fun little question. There's a lot of songs that are still on here, a lot of artists that are playing. Give me your favorite one. We got Pharrell, we got Alessia Cara, BB Rexa, Jonas Brothers. Who are you most excited to hear either play the anthem or in between?
Where's the Jonas Brothers? Is that confirmed in LA already? Because I think the first two were confirmed here. Were the Jonas Brothers they're confirmed to do it at some point, right?
I thought it was game 1 and 2. Forget about Jonas Brothers. And how about
I got it taking place after the 5th inning of game 2 and airing live on Fox. They'll extend the moment with a special. They're part of the Stand Up to Cancer, which is always one of my favorite parts of the season.
I didn't hear that. I heard about the game 1, game 2. I didn't hear the Jonas Brothers, but I mean, not my most favorite type of music, but I think Pharrell is kind of an icon in the music industry. I love hats, and he's got a sweet hat game. So I imagine his hat is going to take up a big part of the stadium wherever he's at. And I heard that it's more than just him. I think it's going to be a full blown show. So I'm definitely excited to see what he brings pregame today.
Okay. Yeah. If Drake wants to stop by, then he's invited, I'm sure, but we'll see. This is his moment.
What do you guys got? What's your guys' predictions? I listened to a little bit early on, but I was coming back. What do you guys got?
In terms of the music or the game?
No, the game. The series. The game?
I like what you said at the beginning. No, we didn't do our predictions yet. We're going to do them at the end. I like what you said at the beginning. Like, I don't see the Blue Jays winning a short series. I think the Blue Jays either win in like a game 6 or 7, or the Dodgers can win in a 6 or 7, but they also could win in 4 or 5. I don't think the Blue Jays are winning in 4 or 5 games. The Dodgers are too good. Do you agree?
No, I agree. Yeah. He's not going to like my prediction, so I'm going to be quiet.
Okay, we're going to save ours.
Hey, I want to hear your
it's too early in the show.
I love to hear it.
Okay.
Oh, I got to listen later on the show?
Tune in for Slap Hands.
Log into foul territory in Canada. We're in Canada, Japan, Dominican, everywhere. KP, you'll see our picks.
I can't wait.
Okay. Well, KP, great segment. You're the man. You're crushing the broadcast game. Have fun out there. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you guys next week.
See ya. That's Kevin Pillar, and also on the screen now, Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Trout, part of the free to download MLB 9 Innings 25. Scan the QR code on the screen. You can download the game, and we'll be right back after a word from our friends Trout and Griffey.
I'll take it easy on you guys. Whatever.
Hey, Mike, you might want to back up.
Nah, bro, I'm good right here.
Yeah, you got no chance of getting it out of the infield anyway.
Last time you gave me something to hit, I took you deep. Come on in here.
What was that? That's not fair. I wasn't even ready.
Save it, Junior.
That's terrible.
Hey, Mad Dog, give me something to hit.